How are you tonight, Julliet?
I'm fine, thanks, Julie. How are you?
I'm extremely well and all the better for seeing you. So we now have another segment of Threads. And who do you have in the studio with us tonight?
Tonight I have Martin Roberts.
Yes.
I'm delighted to say. Martin is a textile and mixed media artist, amongst other things. We'll talk about his background when he's introduced. Shall I introduce him now?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Martin, for coming in. It's lovely to have you.
Thanks, Julia. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Martin's due to have a exhibition at Braemar Gallery very soon, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But first I thought perhaps you might like to tell us a bit about your background, how you came to art.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess, yeah, I've had quite a long and sort of varied background, really. So I'm from Ireland originally, and I went to art school in Limerick on the west coast of Ireland there. And I actually did fashion design originally, and did a diploma and then a degree in fashion design. And after that, I worked in London for a few years doing fashion, and then moved back to Dublin or whatever. And then I sort of fell into costume, actually, because, you know,
As you do.
As you do. This was sort of back in the 90s, and somebody discovered I could sew, so I just got offered a job on a film in Dublin, and from there, you know, just ended up doing quite a lot of film work, and I kind of preferred that to fashion. It was a bit more creative and a bit more interesting, and so on. And then from there, I went more into theatre, and I worked as a costumier in theatre. So all of that.
Is that in Dublin still?
Yeah, in Dublin, and then I moved to Australia, and then worked in costume here as well. The first job I did here was with Baz Luhrmann on La Boheme. He did La Boheme for Broadway, and I was on the costume team making all those costumes. So that was really exciting.
That would have been fabulous.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so then I, worked in that for years. I worked at Sydney Theatre Company for 6 years in the menswear department, making suits and costumes and all sorts of stuff like that. And then, I guess out of all of that costume work, I was always drawn to fabrics, and sort of in between all of this, I started making my own art and using because I'd always, keep all the scraps of fabric from all the different shows and just kind of hoard them. And then I just started sort of collaging them together and creating these big artworks, I suppose. And I suppose over 10 years or whatever, I just developed this applique kind of technique to make my textile pieces. So that's kind of how my sort of artwork developed. It kind of developed out of that costume work. And then, it's probably about 10 years ago now. I was just saying to you before, Juliet, I finished working in costume 4 years ago. And then, so prior to that, I really wanted to do something else, and I was drawn to art therapy, because I wanted to use my creative side to help other people, So I studied a Masters of Art Therapy at Western Sydney Uni, actually over 4 years, because I did it part-time, and graduated from that, and now that's kind of what I work in as an art therapist.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
That's fabulous.
And you taught something at a women's prison in Dublin, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah,
it's an interesting thing that you've done. I taught at Lithgow Jail years ago. It's very rewarding work, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's another thing I sort of fell into. I think this happens in Ireland, you know. If somebody knows you're around,
Yes.
you kind of get offered these gigs.
Yes.
And yeah, so the women's prison there is Mountjoy Prison, and they have like an education centre, and somebody was going on maternity leave, so I went in for 6 months or so and did a workshop, or an ongoing sort of workshop with the women, creating fashion garments, you know, and I'd go in 3 times a week, and you know, I had a group of women, and I got them to design an outfit for themselves and make it, and then we had a fashion show at the end, and people from NCAD, which is the National College of Art and Design in Dublin, they all came to that, and the women's families came, and yeah, it was great.
Yes. Yeah, good.
So I think, you know, that sort of little gig I did, I mean, that's a long time ago now, but that sort of sparked my interest then to work more with people and use those creative skills and those fashion sewing skills and so on to help other people and
It's wonderful.
Help.
And you're actually working as an art therapist now, as well as doing your art. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I work part-time at Headspace. It's a program for early psychosis. So young people who are experiencing or at high risk of experiencing a first episode of psychosis. So I work as an art therapist on the functional recovery team there. And I also have a small private practice that I do 1 day a week. I've got a room in Springwood that I use.
And you live in Katoomba, is that right?
Yeah,
Yes.
I live in Katoomba.
You've lived in the mountains for how long?
6 years.
Yeah?
Yeah, 6 years next month. So, before that was always in Sydney.
Yes.
I moved to Australia in 2002, so what's that, 18 years. So, yeah, always was in Sydney, loved Sydney. It was a really exciting place when I was younger, but yeah, maybe about 6 years ago, just needed a bit of a change and maybe a bit of a slower pace. And yeah, I mean, my partner moved up to the mountains and I just love it here. You know, it's just beautiful. What I always used to notice was when you get off the train, the air smelt so clean.
Yes,
you know?
and you just sort of go,
Yeah.
you know, everybody exhales really.
Yeah.
It is, it's lovely.
And the nature, the bush is just
Yes.
beautiful. It's so restorative. Yeah, I just love it. And the wildlife, you know. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's a lovely community up here as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it's very supportive up here, isn't it? And I think working in art therapy, it would be, yeah.
There's quite a community of art therapists
Yes,
up here, actually.
there are. Yes, there is, I should say. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, Julia.
No.
I'm just sort of sitting here just thinking, aren't we lucky to have this talent sitting in the room, you know? No, because it's just, look, honestly, Martin, as you would know, there are so many creatives up here. I mean, like there's Christine's millinery, Christine, you know, she
Oh, I know,
does,
she's a friend of mine,
yes,
yeah.
and she does
I've worked with her.
fabulous hats and such the most loveliest person. And there are just so many people up here who are, and often they're not on the radar, you know, because they come up and often they can be a little marsupial like, you know, like I think I just want to quietly work from home and not tell anybody I'm here. And it's just so, you know, you can do that without people annoying you, because people up here respect the fact that you don't want to be out there and, you know, being seen, that you just really want to beaver away doing what you do.
Yeah, that's
Which is
right.
good.
Yeah, it's a good place just to squirrel away, isn't it?
Squirrel, that's it,
Yeah.
squirrel away. It's a good, yes.
At the moment, I'm trying to get put a little art studio in the garden, so I've got a proper space to work from, and it's about to happen, and I'm really excited.
Oh, that's
Oh,
great.
that's
I'll be able
great.
to spread out, and you know, yeah, just really get into making art.
Yes.
in our beautiful garden.
So currently, do you just have a room in your house?
It's in the spare room. It's an
yes.
absolute mess.
It's
I can't believe I've pulled an exhibition off in that
Yes.
space.
Yes, marvellous.
Yes.
Yeah, I need a space. Yeah.
Yes, a room of one's own.
Yes, and my little man cave.
Yes, indeed.
So speaking of your exhibition, we might move on to that. Do you want to have a break first?
Yes,
Julie, before we talk
okay,
about that?
yes, I will. And what I'll do is I'll play another track, which is Brothers, and this is by the Neil Sagewood Trio. So here we go.
You're listening to Threads tonight I'm Julliet Hollingsworth, and my guest tonight is Martin Roberts. Martin is a textile and mixed media artist who is about to have an exhibition at Braemar Gallery.
Yeah, that's right.
Martin,
Next Thursday it
Yes,
starts.
it starts next Thursday and runs till the 25th of October.
and is there an opening?
Unfortunately, there's no opening due to COVID, but I am actually I've got Barbara Lapani. She was going to open it originally because the exhibition was going to be on in April, but then of course everything got shut down. But I've asked Barbara if she might do a bit of a virtual opening with myself. And yeah, so we're going to actually record that next week. And I'm going to do a bit of a walk around the gallery and a bit of an artist talk with Barbara. So
I know Barbara very well because we're on the same committee, so BM can. So
yeah,
And how can we access that?
I will post it onto my social media and maybe Blue Mountains Creative Arts Network. I'm involved with them as well. So yeah,
good.
But it won't be through the Braemar.
no, it won't be
No.
on their website.
No. Okay.
It'll be promoted through the BMCAN website probably. Yeah, it will be.
And this exhibition is called Landscapes from the Anthropocene. Yes.
Yeah, that's
Can you tell us a
right.
bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So, the Anthropocene is a proposed geological era. And it's proposed because with geology, you need sort of thousands of years rather than just 50 years. But in this proposed era, human impact on the environment is so significant that it's actually showing up in the geology. And so my exhibition, Landscapes from the Anthropocene, is looking at human impact on the environment, climate change, plastic waste, so on, bushfires, all of that. And the degradation of the environment.
And you've brought in two of your works. Thank you for doing that. That's marvellous.
No, it helps to have them here to talk to.
Juliet always brings in people who actually bring their work in, so it's a delight for the eye. Absolutely.
So the first one depicts a bushfire, or after the bushfire really, although there are flames also in the background. It's very dramatic, and it's sorry, I'm standing up so I can see it.
Do you want me to hold it up? Do you want me to hold
Can
it
you
up?
tell us a bit about this work,
Yeah, sure.
Martin?
This one is called How Good Is Coal? It's a bushfire landscape, basically. It's during or after. It doesn't really, it's the aftermath. The bush is burnt out. And then, with this exhibition, I was kind of, looking at these degraded environments and then putting sort of man-made objects in them. So I was like looking at futuristic vehicles and different architectures. So in this piece, I've got like this little funny-looking buggy thing, and originally I was going to have, I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll have Scott Morrison coming out the windscreen, or Donald Trump or something, but I decided not to do that, and instead I've got this layer underneath, and it's just filled with 5-cent pieces. So, you can. I think everybody looks at art and gains their own sort of interpretation of it. So I don't like to sort of specify too much what it means, but it's along the idea. It's along the idea that coal and our use of fossil fuels is having a massive impact on the environment, and it's something that we have to deal with because it's not going to go away. It's just going to get
people
worse.
just everybody says, oh yes, climate change, but it's almost this thing of, oh well, yes, yes, I know it's there, but it's not affecting me, and well, it is affecting you or the person who's saying that. I mean, if you live in the Blue Mountains, for example, it's been devastating for us up here.
That's right.
And you can just see instances of climate change everywhere.
Yeah.
And plastics polluting, and our marine animals choking to death, and I mean it's quite ghastly. I mean, it's more than ghastly. It's just. Ugh. I know.
Yeah.
I get very, very upset by it, and people who live in the Blue Mountains are particularly. I always say that the mountains is full of eco warriors, and I think that's just as well, because we love our pristine environment, and we just don't want. Well, it isn't just about our environment. I mean, we're all interdependent. So it's really important that we advocate that other people look after their environments as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and what you were saying, right, we're constantly bombarded with these images of, wildlife in distress. I mean,
yes.
Just those bushfires we had last summer, I just can't get that image of the koalas
Oh,
out of my
yes,
head,
yes.
And, when I was making these artworks, it was over during that period of time. We were all driving around with our passports in the boot of the car,
yes.
because,
Yes.
and, there was this constant smoke and stress, and, so I was making all these artworks during then, and, for me, it was very much a kind of a release to be able to do these and just express what was going on.
And the colours are great too, because the colours, I mean, when you see smoke rising, especially in the bush, often you do see the colours that you've used here in the actual smoke, and it's very powerful. And the object in the middle of it, to me, I thought at first was like a tortoise or a little amphibian of some sort. And then I thought, well, you wouldn't have one of those in the middle of the mountains, but you do have, turtles and, I think it's tortoises are they're on their land, aren't they? They're not amphibians, and it's turtles in the ocean. But, it's, I think it's fabulous. I really like it very much.
Oh, thank you.
And I think you're right,
The stark blackness of the burnt trees.
That's right.
It's very dramatic.
Yeah, so that's black velvet appliqué on top. Yeah,
right.
I mean, I love velvet. It's my favourite.
Yes.
I've always loved velvet, and I've sort of been putting black velvet on my artworks for quite a while. It's just sort of something I know that kind of works. It gives a really strong, stark image.
And is that sewn on or stuck on?
Yeah, so it's sewn on with lots of zigzag on the sewing machine. Yeah.
Onto a background.
Yeah,
fabric.
so that's a fabric background. I think it's a piece of cheap Georgette, which I've got these lovely fabric dyes and put all these sort of different colours. I'm trying to explain or describe it. And then some of the trees are then painted on with acrylics, and then the black velvet trees kind of are at the foreground, and that funny little buggy thing which is crawling through the bush.
Yes, like a little like a TARDIS.
Yeah,
like a little, yes.
Carrying a lot of useless 5-cent pieces, you know.
Yes.
It's very effective, Martin. It's just marvellous. I really love it. And you have another work, which is a road to somewhere with it's hard to see, Julie.
Well, I'll hold it up. Hold on. I'll
Or
just
you
take
could
off.
describe it. You can see it.
I'll just move my microphone over here. I move the.
Energy companies.
Oh, it's energy companies, but I mean, it also it shows a highway with a lot of visual pollution, which is, you know, like you have all the service stations and whatever, and signs of, you know, which are signs of oil companies, etc., and energy companies, and I love the work on this. I love the actual the sewing on this. I think it's incredibly interesting. And so do you want to just sort of talk a bit about that, Martin?
Sure, yeah. So this one's called Corporate Highway, and the all those, like, it's got all these billboards down the side, and as you say, energy companies, they're actually the top 20 most carbon polluting companies in the world. And so they're flanking this highway, and, you know, I've got a sort of layer underneath. It's like this coloured plastic which you can see through, and then there's like thumbtacks sticking out and stuff like that. And then there's these two weird looking buildings. And with this piece, I really kind of wanted to make the perspective really wonky and sort of a bit disturbing, so nothing's quite right. And then it's sort of in this deserty type landscape.
It's really visually arresting. That's what I think about this one. I mean, the other one has stark qualities because of the black velvet, etc. But this, I think, yes, it is visually arresting. It's just sort of very interesting how you've done it, I think.
Yeah, there was a lot of sewing in that.
Yes, I could see that, yes.
But yeah, with the whole exhibition, I mean, I've got 14 pieces in it, and I was really trying to play around with the perspective and different wonky sort of angles, and, you know, so it's a bit jarring and so on.
Yes. Well, I just think they're fabulous.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
And there are 14 more.
Oh, 12 more.
No, 12 more.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
So,
And
yes.
will other works for sale at Braemar?
Absolutely, yeah. Sales are great.
And are they available to buy online? Do you know?
I haven't got my website set up to do that. But they will be for sale at the gallery.
At the gallery,
and
yes.
with the Braemar, you just contact the artist directly. The Braemar doesn't take commission, which is fantastic.
Yes.
So yes, if anyone wants to buy them, but when you go to the gallery, there'll be a sheet, and all my contact details will be there.
I see. Yes.
So you can contact me, and I'd love to sell them to you.
Oh, well, I think we'd probably love to buy them. Yes. Right.
Well, I do look forward to the opening that's not an opening.
Because normally the openings you have red wine or white wine and, you know,
you can
nibbles
still
and things.
have that at home.
You can have it at home. Indeed, you can. But
Actually,
you think, yes, go
No, I
on.
was just going to say, although there's no opening, I mean, the gallery, of course, is open to the public. Thursday to Sunday, and well, the first weekend I won't be there, but every weekend after I'll be there on Sunday mornings. So
which would be great if anyone's got any questions.
yeah, that's right. And actually, at openings, there's never really time to talk to people, is there? And it's all,
and so everything's in snatches. It's sort of like, oh, Martin's wonderful.
Yeah, it's all but
yes.
But if people want to come on a Sunday morning, I'll be there and I can talk directly to you about what it is, or
Yes, that's great.
That's great.
I love to hear what other people think.
Well, the place will be packed out with conservationists. I think, and people who echo your sentiments about what we're doing to our environments, which is So, all right. Well, I might just play another track before Martin leaves us. And this is Charlo, and this is the Neil Sagewood Trio from their Opticon album.
My guest on Threads tonight has been Martin Roberts, whose exhibition Landscapes from the Anthropocene is opening at Braemar Gallery on Thursday of next week. Martin, thanks for telling us about this exhibition and talking about a couple of your works. And what next for you?
Well, what next? Yeah, I suppose
What next?
it's more art therapy and it's more art for me. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sort of already starting to think about where to go with my art next. So I suppose this has been a big kind of landscape type series, but I do quite like doing figurative work as well. And I'm going to put a piece into a group exhibition. It'll be next year, but it's with the Masters of Art Therapy program. So it's
fabulous.
for staff and students on that program, and that's curated by Dr. Joy Payton and Anita Lever. And they've sent out a really interesting call out, and it's called Felt Edges, the exhibition. So I guess it's looking at the different felt edges that different members of society have.
It's a great title, isn't it?
Yeah.
Felt Edges.
I'm probably not doing it justice, but it's really sparked a lot of interest for me.
Yes.
And I think I might sort of use that as a bit of a catalyst for my next sort of body of work.
Yes. And where will that exhibition be?
It'll be on at the university, so I can't think off the top of my head the name of the gallery, but it's on the Parramatta campus.
Oh, yes.
But that'll be like late next year, so it's still quite a way off.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm sort of really looking forward to kind of going in a bit of a different direction with my art.
Yes, great.
Well, all the best, Martin,
Thank you.
and I hope this is a sellout for you, because obviously you put so much work into it. But it's what I love about it is they're passionate works, you can tell, and they're quite intense in some ways. And I love them very much. Julliet does. I'm sure other people will too, because it's such a different take. You don't often find a costume designer doing this sort of work, and I just think it's going to be very interesting.
Thank you.
And people will go along and they'll be looking, saying, look at this applique. Oh.
Yeah.
And if you've got questions, if you go along on a Sunday, you can meet Martin and ask him all those questions. So, Julliet, thank you for bringing Martin in. That's just fantastic. Thank you, Martin, very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
And you're welcome back anytime. And we'll keep plugging the exhibition, and it's on till the end of October. And it's very interesting, really is.
Thanks so much for coming in, Martin.
Thank you so
really
much.
interesting
Yeah,
talking.
I've had a great time.
Yes, and I can't believe it, but it's the end of the program, and here we are. It's nearly 7:30. It's just flown by. and enjoyably, I like to say, for me as well. I hope our listeners have enjoyed it as much as Julliet and Fiona and I have. So be with us next week and for another, I suppose, another very absorbing art house. As most of our listeners will know, if you go online or better still, yes, if you look at our Facebook page, Art House, you'll find that we always put on, who's going to be on next Thursday or, in the next program. And so have a look at that and, you might get some very nice surprises. So we'll be talking again next week. So thanks, everybody, and now we'll revert to CRN, the Community Radio Network.